All right, welcome back for Film Shake. I'm Jordan.
And this is Nick.
And we are the 90s Movies Podcast. Today we're here to talk about a triple feature, 3 movies, all revolving around
Mortal Kombat!
So we will be talking about Mortal Kombat from 1995, the original movie. We'll be talking about 1997's Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the original sequel. And we'll also cover the new film that just came out, the 2021 Mortal Kombat, which should be on HBO Max now, depending on when you're listening, of course, for posterity reasons. It might have been removed if you're listening to this years later or in some far gone outer world realm where these things don't exist anymore.
Well, Mortal Kombat may have committed some inappropriate cultural sin and been canceled, and it might not even exist anymore in the future. Can you imagine,
That's
Jordan,
right.
a future with no Mortal Kombat where all combat is immortal? I can't. I don't want to.
Immortal Kombat. Well, I guess it wouldn't be immortal if it was canceled, right? So the very nature of it is prone to canceling.
Let's say this up front. I played the original video games in the 90s. These were a big deal for me because, they were cool. They were really violent. They were fun to play with your friends. The first Mortal Kombat came out in 1992. The sequel came out the next year, and then we had Mortal Kombat 3 in 1995. And I remember going to my friend Jonathan LeBlanc's grandfather's house. He had a Sega Genesis in the spare room there, and we had those games borrowed from someone else. I don't think we ever gave them back. And we just, tore each other's hearts out, ripped each other's spines out. We had a great time. I played it on my Game Boy. But I didn't really follow the series after that when it went to 3D, and then went back to 2D, but with way more polygons. And I never watched these movies, Jordan, because as I said in our Total Recall episode, where we also covered Super Mario Brothers, I saw in the theater with my mom. I drug her out. She took me out of the kindness of her heart. And then it crushed my soul. It was so terrible. I've never trusted a video game movie again. And this came out a few years later, and I said, that looks stupid, and it probably is stupid, and life sucks, and I hate everything. So I never watched it, even though everyone else told me, but Nick, it's so bad. And when they said bad, they meant 90s bad, which isn't bad, but it was
90s bad. 90s bad is the epitome of this movie, actually. So that's perfect.
So what's your experience with Mortal Kombat?
Well, I think I've talked to you before about the few times that I can remember my dad bringing me to the theater. One of the other times would be when he took us to see Pamela Anderson and Barbed Wire when we were like 9 or 10.
I love that story.
And so, her in the hot tub with a machine gun or whatever it was. But this is the other movie I can remember, like us all loading up in the van and driving down to see Mortal Kombat in the theater. And we were so pumped, it was 9 when this came out. I was really into this. I remember drawing Reptile in my notepad because I thought Reptile was the coolest thing ever. And I remember looking back in my my notebooks later, and I had like pictures of torsos with spines hanging out of them. That was probably more from the video game because we don't really get anything like that in this movie. But I was a big fan of the games. It felt like the thing that you would get your buddies over for summertime and just all sit around and have like your own tournament in your room. And then, when this movie came out, I was a big fan based on the games and really enjoyed it as a kid and didn't really get into the sequel or any of the other iterations of this after that. It was just one and done for me, I suppose, and talk more about the sequel later. But I think the bad word of mouth for that movie turned me off and just didn't get into any other versions of this franchise until now. So really excited to revisit this and explore new ground.
Ooh, very nice. You reminded me, and I was a teenager when these came out, so not only was I jaded from the Super Mario Brothers movie sucking, but I was like, these movies aren't even rated R. They're PG-13. They're just commercialized versions of the game. But really, Jordan, I think I was bitter because back then I got my video game tips and tricks from the newspaper. We used to have something called the fun section in the Friday newspaper. And 1 week they listed all the fatalities for all the characters when you play the game at the arcade, which also I played this a lot at the arcade and just hoped and prayed to God, please don't let anyone else come up and actually play me, because they're going to kill me and embarrass me and then take the game away from me. Because, if someone came and beat you, it was their machine. And I was terrible at this game. I love 2D fighting games, but I've always been bad at them. Even Street Fighter 2, which I liked more than Mortal Kombat, I sucked at it. So I always would be like, please no one come up to the machine. And one time at a bowling alley, I got Mortal Kombat 2 all to myself for like an hour, and I had so many quarters, and I cut out the fatality section from the fun section of the newspaper with everyone's fatalities, and I was so pumped. I was like, I can't wait to use these. I'm going to do everyone's fatalities, because that's really why you played Mortal Kombat, right? The disgustingly violent fatalities that were so shocking and shocked America and Tipper Gore and all the parents of the world. But I got so pumped, and then I never beat anyone. And then finally, I would win a fight, and when I say anyone, I mean the CPU, right? Even in the earlier fights where they're easy, I would very rarely win. And then when I did, it'd be like, oh crap, the newspaper, let me grab it. And I'd try to do the fatality, and I'd be like, A, down, left, B, and it would be over. You had 3 seconds to perform it. So I never pulled one off.
I remember that too, going to the arcade, that memories of going to the bowling alley too. But, as a 9-year-old, it was like, oh, there's these giant kids playing this game that's really bloody, and I can only peer behind them through the cracks to see what's going on. But no, I mean, I did get a chance to play on there too, and I'm with you. It's like you try to do the fatality, and then, oh, your 3 seconds is over, and game over, next round or whatever. And that was always really frustrating.
It was such a shame. Though I will say, whenever Jonathan and I played them at his grandfather's house, we had all the time in the world. I think I would use Scorpion and Raiden the most, and I did get their fatalities down finally, but only there. In that situation where it'd be like, Jonathan, let me beat you so I can do the fatality. It wasn't the mean, scary arcade situation of the mid-90s.
Right.
It's a very dangerous place.
Right. You put on the 2-player and just play against yourself and beat the other person so you could practice the fatalities.
Yeah, but Jordan, I didn't want to say that. Yeah, that's exactly it. You put in the second controller, beat no one senseless because there's no one holding it, and then do the fatality. Yes, that's what I did when Jonathan would go to the bathroom. You've blown my cover.
Good old nostalgia. Bringing it back. Well, let's get into this first movie, Mortal Kombat from 1995. Dun, 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 dun. Gotta have the theme music, right?
Yes, that theme song. So even if I didn't watch the movie, everyone had that blasting from every speaker. It felt like that summer. I heard dun, 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 over and over and over and over and over again. And it is in this movie. It's not just something where it's a song inspired by the movie. It is in the film.
It is in the film quite a lot. It seems like every fight that song is coming on and someone's screaming Mortal Kombat. It's a classic opening where you get the dragon symbol and the theme music pumping, and yeah, this soundtrack was pretty killer at the time. It went platinum in 2 weeks. Reading up the trivia about it just seems so strange because it was such a ubiquitous thing back then, but record companies at the time apparently wanted to use Van Halen or Janet Jackson for the soundtrack. They weren't into the dance music. So can you even imagine,
might as well jump, dun,
jump. Right. Well, it would work with some of the fight scenes where Liu Kang's got to jump over a kick or something.
There's a lot of jumping in this movie, actually. If they changed the title to Mortal Jumping, I feel like it would be just as apt a title.
Well, yeah, the first one would be Mortal Jumping, and the second one would be Mortal Flipping. Because they flip so much in that movie. But we'll get into that. So yeah, we got the opening scene with Shang Tsung killing Liu Kang's brother, and Liu Kang waking up from that nightmare of that happening. But I guess we find out later that really did happen. Shang Tsung really does kill his younger brother. But I wanted to ask, why is Liu Kang's room green? He wakes up and his room is just Blade Runner green. It looks like he's in a sci-fi movie.
I have a hypothesis, Jordan, if you want to hear it. It might not be one that everyone wants to hear, but my hypothesis as to why his room is green is because Paul W.S. Anderson is a hack. That's why I think his room was green.
Oh, no. Come on. You telling me you watched this movie and you think Paul W.S. Anderson is a hack?
I have a lot of anger at him and this movie and the film industry for the simple fact that, like, okay, I know people are
Nick
nostalgic
angry?
for this
What?
movie.
Big surprise.
That's it. The rant's taking over. Silence, Jordan. This episode's mine now. So Mortal Kombat. I get that people have nostalgia for this because you saw it when you were Jordan's age or whatever. That's fine and that's cool. This is a bad movie. This movie's not good. Really none of Paul W.S. Anderson's movies except maybe Event Horizon are good. But I really feel like when this made money, they're like, this is what the fans like. This is what people like. Get this guy and more people like this guy to make video game movies. And I really feel like this is just the perfect example of the way that properties were handled in the 90s, where it just feels disrespectful to me. Even though, like, Mortal Kombat isn't this great work of narrative art that deserves the greatest film, really every video game movie up until the past few years was always crap, and you could just see the studio executives like derision toward the people who are going to watch it. Like, who cares if this movie is a piece of garbage? What do they know? They just play video games. They don't know what makes a good movie. And that's it. I ran out of steam. I'm gonna eat some candy. Go ahead.
My simple question of why is his room green opened all that up, man.
That's why. That's the reason.
I mean,
maybe if it was blue, I would have had a different answer.
You might have a different answer. Yeah. I mean, I will agree. I don't think this is a great or even good movie, but I still enjoy it. It's basically to the level where it's so bad it's good, because I just find myself laughing at so many things watching this now. But there's still like this degree of entertainment and campiness and likability to it. And it might just be 100% nostalgia. But, you know, I'll watch this and I'll watch Event Horizon by Anderson as well. And I don't know, there's just something to those, even though they're kind of crap and they're kind of just stupid. There's still this level of schlocky entertainment. Of course, we've discovered so many times that I love trash, so my opinion doesn't really count for anything. But I will say this is miles ahead of Annihilation, but I'm jumping ahead.
Poor Annihilation. Well, just to jump more, I'm also thinking of like U-Bowl, who made a lot of really bad video game movies, talking about like studio executives saying like, who cares? Like, the audience is dumb. They don't mind if we just shovel crap into their mouths. I'm thinking about all those movies U-Bowl made. And then even Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil movies, where I went back and watched the first one finally. I say went back. I had never watched it before because I thought it looked stupid. And I love Resident Evil games. They're so cinematic. And that movie was dumb. And all the sequels he's made since are probably dumb, but I don't think I'm going to waste my time watching them. So anyway, sorry. I just alienated everyone listening to this episode. I'm going to go in the bad boy corner.
The bad boy corner. Well, talking about kind of being stupid and ridiculous and loving it at the same time, I love Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung in this movie. He will always be Shang Tsung to me. Like, I had talked about watching, Showdown in Little Tokyo recently, and I was like, oh, there's Shang Tsung. Like, I will just always associate him with this movie. He's so over the top and ridiculous, but he's still got this kind of menace to him. He always just plays a great villain, but so many of his lines are super cheesy, but it's quotable, you know, it's memorable for how cheesy and how ridiculous they are. Unlike some other stuff that I feel like is just, oh, it's really bad and it's forgettable, but I will always hear him in my mind saying, your soul is mine, or it has begun, you know, things like that. It's just, that's Shang Tsung. It's classic. It might just be total trash, but at the same time, it's classic trash.
Yes, it is classic trash. I don't know if this will win anyone back to wanting to hear my voice, but I did enjoy watching this. It definitely goes in the so bad it's good category. And we've watched movies that are so bad they're just bad. This does come back around, and it's very fun to watch. And I do have 90s nostalgia. Obviously, we do this show. The aesthetics and sounds and feel of this movie, it's all that. So I did enjoy watching it, even though I think it's stupid and incompetent. It's very watchable.
At the same time, I say it's so bad it's good. I think this is kind of coming around to where it's a perfect film shake movie, for me at least, where there are elements that are so bad and it's hilarious, but then there's other moments that are genuinely entertaining to me and funny, like just some of the character interactions. And I'll get into that later, but I also wanted to talk about the opening scene, Sonya and Jax, how they bust up in the club and they have their guns drawn, and they're just beating people down as they go through the crowd, just smashing people with their guns. And then a goon comes out and fires like an Uzi at them and the crowd behind them, and everyone just keeps dancing as she blasts them through a glass window. I'm like, what happened here? I guess the music was too loud for them to hear the gunfire, but everyone's still dancing in the background. And it's stuff like that just makes me really enjoy watching this.
Yeah, that's a good point. Real Talk, which is a show I was actually just on. I just did a Roadhouse episode with them. They had me on as a guest, and I had a ton of fun. But they did an episode solely on the first Mortal Kombat movie, which is a ton of fun. You should check that out. But they really made a great point there that they're just beating everyone up in their way. It's just like normal civilians who are just dancing at the club, and they're all getting beat down.
Yeah, it makes no sense. But we meet, Kano, which is Sonya's archenemy. Trevor Goddard chewing up the scenery. He's got this goofy metal plate and red eye in his face, like from the game. But again, not good by any means, but I couldn't help but enjoy watching him taunt Sonya the whole movie and just being utterly creepy. He plays it so well. He's just a total jerk and total douche, but I really enjoy Kano.
That's cool. I like Kano too. And I do have to say, if you're watching this movie and you're thinking like, man, I don't know about this Sonya Blade. I don't know if I'm digging her. Let me just tell you, this is the best Sonya Blade you're going to get in any of these movies, even the new one. It's Veronica Vaughn, Bridget Wilson from Billy Madison.
So hot.
So fine. Want to touch the hiney. That's right.
That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace.
It's her. Gosh, now I'm getting the wardrobes mixed up with this and Annihilation. In one of them, she just wears a white t-shirt and khaki shorts from Sears.
That would be Annihilation.
But really, of the three Sonyas, I do think Bridget Wilson is the best. And I know she was pumped to be in this movie. She said, I'm doing my own stunts. I think she threw her shoulder out of socket. So she does all, for what this movie is, she definitely does fine.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I love her in this role, and I agree. I think she's the best Sonya out of all of them. She just has that mean girl face. She does it so well. She's just constantly ticked off at all the incompetent men around her.
It's great. The expression resting bitch face, the first time I ever heard it in my entire life, I thought of Bridget Wilson.
She's the epitome of resting bitch face for sure. Then we move on to meet Johnny Cage, and I love this opening scene too, where he's walking through this warehouse and he takes down all these goons. He has his classic line, "Let's dance." And then this is where you fall down. And one of the extras in this movie they're making just won't fall down. So he jumps over onto the ground. And he's like, where do you get these guys? And we quickly realize, they're making a movie. And you've got this kind of nod to Spielberg, the director who's making this movie. There's this guy that looks very much like Spielberg as the director here. And apparently Steven Spielberg was supposed to make a cameo here, but the timing just didn't work out for them to film that scene with him. But I thought that was a nice little touch too. And say what you want about all the acting, but I enjoyed Lyndon Ashby in this as Johnny Cage. I thought his take on Johnny as this spoiled celebrity who has way too much luggage on this trip to middle of nowhere, what looks like Thailand. Well, I think they filmed it in Thailand. Yeah, I just feel like he does a perfect job of being this cocky celebrity trying to prove himself. And he had a lot of fun lines. His choreography and his fighting were pretty good as well. I don't think he's an actual classically trained martial artist or anything, but I thought he held his own. Say what you want. I enjoyed Johnny Cage.
I dug Lyndon Ashby too.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the classic, the split punch to the balls on Goro later in the movie.
That whole fight with Goro was amazing. What he said, those were my favorite sunglasses, asshole. Was that the line?
Right. Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole.
There we go. That's the line. I'll edit myself out saying the wrong thing, or I'll just leave it so I can look like more of an ass than I already do.
We've got to talk about Christopher Lambert. as Raiden.
I was not into this Christopher Lambert performance. I just have to say it now. I know people like how weird it is, and it's weird, but it threw me off.
It's pretty weird. It
threw me off. I couldn't get into it. Every time he talked, I was like, whoa, wait, what? First off, what are you saying? What is this accent you're using? What movie am I watching? Where am I? Is this my house? Are these my pets? Is this my wife?
Raiden threw you off that
Is
bad.
This my child? Yeah, it was pretty rough, man. I felt like I got sent to Outworld every time he talked.
He just shows up with his raspy voice, talking all weird. He definitely seemed out of place. And, when we first meet him in his hat and cloak, and again, we're in Thailand, and there's Liu Kang, and then there's all these what look like guys who are also from Thailand, lots of Asian extras. But then we've got Christopher Lambert dressed up as one of them, who's based on an Asian character in the video game. And then he's talking all weird, like,
"You have embarked on a sacred mission. You have been chosen to defend the realm of Earth in a tournament called Mortal Kombat."
But
why is he not Asian? Why is he Christopher Lambert?
I don't know, but I'm into it at the same time because I think it's so bad. It's good. It's definitely on that level for me, and I wouldn't want it any other way for this movie. You can tell he's having a lot of fun. He's throwing in these wisecracks, which just seem totally odd for this character, but again, it's somehow enjoyable. I mean, he paid his way. Apparently, they couldn't afford to send him to Thailand, and he paid his way to go to film the rest of the movie. They were just going to shoot his close-ups in a studio and do a body double for his wider shots. But he's like, no, I need to be in this movie, and I'm going to pay for the rap party too.
Does he at any point say, it's time for a little hanky-panky? Does he ever say that? Because I just feel like he does, even though I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
Does he ever say hanky-panky?
Does he ever say, I think it's time to get a little sexy? Does he ever say that?
No, I don't know what movie you watched, man.
Does he ever say, this time kiss with tongue?
No, what is this?
Because that's the vibe I got from him the whole movie. I don't know. He was weirdly pervy to me. I don't know, man. This movie threw me off, dude. Everything in this movie just threw me off. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm going back to my corner.
He does have a really pervy moment later when he gets really close to Sonya and he's talking. I think that's when he's talking about their different fears, and he gets right up next to her in her ear with his raspy voice. And I was like, dude, Raiden, back off, man. You're getting way too close to this girl. You're kind of perving me out.
He was like, is Pete Sampras as good with his you-know-what as he is with his racket? And she was like, what? Does Pete Sampras exist in this Mortal Kombat world, and is she with him? Probably not. Why did he say that?
Man, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's her husband in real life. She married the tennis pro Pete Sampras.
Oh, okay.
He was incredibly good at tennis, and she really didn't do much since then.
Shows how much I know about tennis. But anyway, we should talk about Robin Shou for real, playing Liu Kang. Again, the fluffiest mullet you'll ever see in a movie.
I did want to smell it just a little bit.
I wanted to touch the mullet. I honestly did. It's so fluffy and soft looking, especially on this journey to this outer world where very few amenities. He keeps that hair very voluminous.
I wish that they had said that line in the movie. Wow, there are very few amenities here in Outworld. Do they say that? Does Raiden say that? There are very few amenities here. Does he say that at all?
They do have the amenities once they get there of this nice dinner that they sit down with, as they're being introduced to everybody. But then all these shirtless thugs with pantyhose on their heads just flip over the tables with all the food. And I'm like, why did they make all that food? One of them has got to be the cook, right? I wanted to see the scene of the cook being like, oh, come on, guys. I just made all that food.
For some reason, right after that, Christopher Lambert makes a weird face at Bridget Wilson and says, I'm sorry, Sonya, there are no prophylactics here. You're like, why is he talking about that?
I don't know, man. I did love, and this is a genuine moment I enjoyed, where Robin Shou is showing up on the pier where they're waiting for the boat, and Johnny Cage is trying to ask him to carry his bags for him, and he takes the money and throws it in the water. I thought that was pretty great. And then he says, thank God I didn't ask him to park the car. It's classic 90s. It's cheesy, like little one-liners like that, but I still had a lot of fun with that kind of stuff.
And then Johnny Cage still shows up to the island with 28 suitcases that he's comically carrying, and then he falls off the boat, like into the water holding all of them. It just looks like a dummy.
Right. How does he still have all that luggage? I don't know. And where does it go by the end of the movie?
And what's in there?
I guess all his celebrity clothes, man.
It's all his prophylactics. That's what Raiden said.
It's all the prophylactics.
Yeah.
We meet Scorpion and Sub-Zero on the boat, and the characters are introduced to Raiden officially, and we get more creepy voice from Raiden. I love the moment where he says, "The fate of billions will depend upon you." Ha 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 ha. Sorry. Just like, what? Like, why is he laughing? Why is he talking like this? Why is he laughing? Why is he apologizing?
Thanks for reminding me of my favorite part of the entire movie, by the way. I appreciate that.
Is that your favorite part?
It was, yeah.
And then him saying, "It has begun," and then Shang Tsung repeating, "It has begun." And there's snakes and skulls flying through the air. I'm like, wait, what is beginning exactly? Because then they just show up on the island. I'm like, why are there snakes and skulls, though, in the air? Like CGI skulls and snakes, but still.
What did you think about the CGI in this movie as a whole? Did you feel like it was cutting edge?
I mean, as a 9-year-old, I did. I was like, whoa, that reptile looks super sweet. And Goro, practical effects, that looks awesome. Obviously, now it's pretty dated and, objectively looks terrible. But I don't know. Was it good for its time? I don't remember taking me out of the movie when I was younger, when I saw it in the theater. Obviously, I thought it was cool, but yeah, it's definitely dated. It looks like a bad PC game from the mid-90s.
Oh, that's exactly it, dude. This movie's entire aesthetic is mid-90s CD-ROM.
CD-ROM, that's
right. That's what I felt I was watching on my old computer, the entire movie.
Just the cutscenes were real with the live-action stuff. Well, we meet Katana, which she's apparently 10,000 years old. She's the Emperor's stepdaughter, something like that. But all we really need to know about her is they play the flute every time she looks at Liu Kang. Did you notice this? The flute noise.
I think that was Raiden playing the flute. It was Christopher Lambert slightly off screen.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what it was.
Like, no prophylactics, but we do have sexy flutes.
We have the sexy flute noise.
God's greatest aphrodisiac.
Because, when a woman looks at you like that, it usually means something.
Whip out your flute. It's pretty obvious metaphor there. This movie's dirty.
Well, what did you think about Goro and the effects for that character?
I'm really finding that I want to get into the new movie that we are going to talk about at the end here as to whether you think this CGI Goro from the new movie looks as good as the animatronic one from this one. When you were watching it, did you feel like he was CGI? Because the animatronic has like this weird fluidy feel to it. It looks okay. Like, for as low budget as I think this was compared to some of its peers, I think Goro looks all right. The scene with him and Johnny Cage fighting is stupid, but it has the awesome sunglasses line. And, I mean, he looks like the rest of the movie. He looks like everything else in this movie. Like, he fits perfectly.
Yeah, he fits the sets, which are, pretty elaborate and detailed. And I'd say, yeah, especially for 95, the Goro effect was pretty good. I dug the animatronics. I also laughed how he would just yell for 10 minutes whenever he was fighting anybody. He wouldn't actually fight most of the time. He'd just raise all 4 arms and yell, "Oh, Goro!"
He definitely ended up being all bark and no bite there whenever he fought.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of people fighting Johnny Cage, he did look a lot better than the weird CGI creature they decided to put in Scorpion Spear that's snapping and trying to bite Johnny Cage like a CGI mosquito. That was weird, man. I didn't dig that. A lot of people are like, that's the best fight in the movie. And I won't argue. I think that probably is the best fight. But that element of it is silly. It's definitely CD-ROM-esque.
Yeah, it is CD-ROM-esque, but I can't deny that fight. I also think it's probably one of the best next to the reptile fight at the end with Liu Kang. It's, it's just got everything you want. It's got Scorpion, the spear on the chain, even though that looks silly. You get the "get over here" line. You get the shadow kick into hellscape where all of a sudden they're on these stands with stilts like hovering above some glowing orange death hole. And you get the skull face with the fire breath at the end and Johnny slicing off his head with a shield and goo coming out of his body. A scorpion catches on fire and then he explodes, of course, at the very end. So it's just like, man, this is 90s action, like everything I want in a Mortal Kombat movie right here.
That whole set really did look great, I gotta say. And the lighting on it wasn't really hackish. It looked pretty good. I mean, it reminded me of the Temple of Doom from the mid-'80s, but it looked really cool. I dug it.
I did want to ask, why is Johnny just randomly wandering in the woods when the fight starts? Before this, we get Sonya's fight where she kills Kano, his give me a break line and her twisting his neck and killing him. And you get the Liu Kang fight with the dreadlock dude. But then all of a sudden we've got just Johnny wandering in the woods. But basically this is probably because I think they added in the Johnny Cage fight with Scorpion later when they tested this movie and people said, no, we need more fights. So they added in the Scorpion fight and the reptile fight.
I just thought he was picking apples. That was what I assumed. He's out picking apples because he's hungry, because they ruined the feast earlier and he's starving. He's used to getting, all these catered movie sets. And they don't have that there, so he was looking for sustenance. Which also, did you like how in the reptile fight later on in the movie where he is also there before Liu Kang? Is it Liu Kang that fought Reptile?
Yeah.
Right? They're together. Johnny is with him. And then all of a sudden, Johnny just doesn't participate in the fight. He just vanishes until the fight's over. Then he comes back again. Like, where'd he go? I guess he was looking for more food. Or prophylactics.
There's a lot of moments in the movie where like someone gets into a fight and then all the other characters just disappear. Like at the very end when he's fighting Shang Tsung, it's like, wait, what happened to Sonya and Johnny? They just are offset in their trailer, I guess, for that moment. What about Katana and Lu's relationship where she keeps giving him these cryptic hints, like how is he going to defeat Sub-Zero? He's got to use the element that brings life. I'm like, why don't you just tell him what he needs to do? Why are you being cryptic? You testing him? But then, of course we had the Liu Kang Sub-Zero fight and he's like jumping and kicking down the ramp because apparently the actor who played Sub-Zero could do like these flips and stuff down this ramp. Robin Shaw is having trouble doing this, so he just runs and screams as he's coming down this ramp in their fight instead of doing any actual flips, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, apparently the Sub-Zero actor was the most incredible martial artist on set.
Yeah. I read that as well, and I love how Katana shows up just to stare at Liu Kang some more and the flute's playing. And then he's got to have voiceover of her instruction, which she gave him like 2 minutes ago, like use the element that brings life. And he's like, oh, water. And he says that out loud. And then he's, throws the bucket of water at Sub-Zero.
W.S. Anderson was like, we've got to make it explicit. They might think it's fire that brings life. They might think it's the wind that brings life. Maybe he was like being really deep, wind carries seeds from bird poop and that creates new trees, which is life. So he needs to say water because they might think it's something else.
Because I was 9 years old when I saw this movie, so I wouldn't have gotten that otherwise.
Were you like, oh, water, bro? Well, no, you're more like, oh, water, bro. I'm 9.
Oh, that's so cool. He killed him with ice. And he's the ice guy.
The ice guy got iced.
He got iced.
Zing.
Well, how about the montage of Goro when he finally gets to fight and he's just throwing dudes on rocks? Like all we see is just guys being thrown down on the ground on these rocks. Oh, and next is Raiden's pep talk to the three. He gives advice to Johnny. I'm like, okay, that sounds all right. Tells him, he's afraid of being a fake and he'll rush into any fight to prove himself. But then to Sonya, this is the part where he gets really creepily close to her and he whispers, if you're afraid to trust, you will lose. Like, what kind of advice is that?
I don't know. It's probably the best advice he gives the whole movie when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, at least it makes sense, right?
You've got to trust that your arms and legs, when your brain tells them to punch or kick, that they're going to move. If you don't do that, you're like, well, how do I fight? And then you just collapse on the ground like someone's ripped your skeleton out in fatality. So I really think it's the best advice of the movie. Besides all the weird stuff he said about prophylactics, which is true because I know that Outworld has a population problem. You don't want to spread your seed too far. You don't want to be like the wind, which thankfully we know water is the element that brings life. So
that makes sense what Raiden tells Sonya, but Shang Tsung, on the other hand, makes little sense when they're talking about the rules of this tournament. And at one point he even says, the rules are quite clear, but it just sounds like he's making up stuff as he goes, because Johnny, I guess, requests to fight Goro. Because Shang Tsung lets that happen, he says, but I will be able to challenge the winner or anyone I choose in a place that I determine. It's just like,
I love that.
Wait.
Why even say the winner? I'll be able to challenge anyone. Literally anyone. I could bring a kid down here and I'll fight him. Anyone I choose. It doesn't matter if you're a winner at anything. You could be the biggest loser ever.
That's right. You know, of course, Johnny is the winner. He does the split punch to the balls on Goro. And I love how he's running away, but he starts shaking his hand and says, damn, that hurt. Like, I guess Goro's got some balls made out of steel or something.
That's actually why there are no prophylactics down there. It's because Goro kept trying them out and they kept breaking on his brass, I hate to say this, but his steel-like penis, or probably multiple penises. I'm guessing if he has that many arms, he probably has that many genitals. So that's why there are no prophylactics there. The whole movie makes sense, and that's why it hurt so bad when he punched him down there. It was like, I don't know, 8 metal penises.
You're really getting into this prophylactic joke, aren't you? But so Shang Tsung grabs Sonya to bring her to Outworld in the ooze tunnel. I know some like creepy ooze rides up the tunnel and brings them to the other place where they're going in Outworld. I love Raiden. He says he's going to Outworld where I cannot follow, again, some random rules that we just learned. And then Liu Kang apparently understands because he says, but we can. And then Raiden says, he failed to mention one last rule. And Liu Kang says, she has to accept the challenge. And Raiden says, I have nothing more to teach you. I'm like, wait, what did Raiden even teach this guy? And how does Liu Kang know all this stuff? It's just, they're just making this stuff up as they go. It's just ridiculous. Like, is this even a real tournament? What is happening? You thought the Scorpion fight was the best. I thought the reptile fight was probably the best. Well, I don't know. I guess it's neck and neck because you do have the awesome skull and flame breath and goo and explosion and all that. But I'd say as far as the martial arts go in this movie, Liu Kang versus the reptile guy was top notch and really fun. Glad they stuck in a good fight there towards the ending. Liu Kang just gets the crap kicked out of him for a long time, but then he comes back with the badass bicycle kick and smashes Reptile through the wall again. And there's some weird stuff going on with a statue and bugs and the reptile creature being eaten by the statue. I don't know what is going on, but he sure does smush the reptile creature at the end, and bugs are crawling everywhere like worms and cockroaches, and it's pretty gross, but pretty awesome.
I did like using him, Liu Kang, in the games, but I don't know, man. Scorpion, it felt like a cheat to use the get over here, which I loved, so I always used him.
Get over here and then uppercut, right?
That's right. I just get over here, uppercut people so much. It was almost as bad as when someone would use Sub-Zero and just slide into you the whole fight until you died.
Oh, yeah. That's terrible. That just brings back trauma from my childhood. Would you say that Liu Kang was the star of the games like he is with the movie here?
I don't know if I think the games had like a single star, at least not to me. It felt like they were all the stars of the game.
No, you're probably right. But I like that Liu Kang is the star here. And apparently when Robin Shou was approached about auditioning for the role, he thought that he might just get another stereotypical like Asian villain character. But it's cool to see him as kind of the main star here and get, you know, a lot of screen time. He's a good martial artist, and can't say he's the best actor for sure, but I feel like he plays Liu Kang really well.
Hey, he's the only actor that came back for Annihilation, so.
Well, him and Katana.
Talisa Soto, yeah, that's right. I mean, I would have come back for Annihilation, which, guess what, Jordan? I'm just going to straight up say this, bud. I enjoyed it a little more than this one because they're both bad. But Annihilation is so bad. It's so bad.
It is so bad. Well, wait, are we jumping into Annihilation?
Do you have anything else to say about this first Mortal Kombat movie?
I feel like we just need to bring it to the end and then we can close it out. Is that good?
Yeah, go ahead. What happens? I don't even remember.
You don't even remember. Liu Kang finally goes to the Black Tower with Johnny to rescue Sonya, and Sonya is dressed up like a 80s Madonna in like a leather dress. I don't know, and it looks like her hair's all puffed out, and I'm like, wait, did Shang Tsung give her a makeover? I really wish we had that scene.
It was Pete Sampras, actually, against the producer's will, but what are you going to do?
And Bridget Wilson Sampras looks like so mad. She's just like, really, guys? You're going to make me this damsel in distress after I've been badass this whole movie? I love how Shang Tsung challenges Johnny Cage because Sonya has turned him down, so he's got to fight somebody. And he challenges Johnny Cage, and then Liu Kang steps in. He says, no, you'll fight me. And then how fast his monk robe comes off. He's just like immediately half naked again with his biceps and chest muscles popping out.
He knows in Outworld he doesn't even have to worry about prophylactics, so he's ready for any encounter immediately.
You don't need shirts. You don't need prophylactics. All you need is kung fu. But, you know, he's fighting Shang Tsung. He gets a good hit in on Kerry Tagawa, and I love the, you fool! line when he makes him bleed. And Katana has told him that, you know, he must face 3 different enemies when he goes to fight Shang Tsung. And she's standing there the whole time, again, with the flute noise playing and the voiceover of what she said earlier. Or no, actually, she's saying it out loud now to herself, because Liu Kang obviously can't hear her because he's couple yards away fighting, and she just says, face your enemy, out loud as Shang Tsung brings up his soul warriors. Liu Kang kicks all these guys like once or twice, and then they're all out cold. And then Shang Tsung is up on the platform and he says, I can see into your soul, you will die. And then Katana says, face yourself. And then Liu Kang says, you can see into my soul, but you don't own it. And then that's it. Then we're on to the next challenge, face your fear. I was like, wait, that's it for face yourself? That's all? We're just going to rush past that?
I don't even remember any of this, dude. I think I watched the wrong print of this movie. Did all this stuff really happen? And none of the prophylactic stuff that I've been talking about can't get out of my head? What did I watch?
I think you watched the director's cut. Never
the
seen
one that Paul W.S. Anderson only watches with Mila Jovovich, apparently.
That's right. With the prophylactics in hand.
He's trying to teach her about safe sex still. Like, we can't have any more kids, Mila. Watch this cut I did of Mortal Kombat.
I don't know, maybe this face yourself stuff was cut out. I thought it was just pretty hilarious how quickly they go by that, because, you know, she sets up these 3 domains that he has to pass through, and it's just face yourself. And he's like, no, you can see into my soul, but you don't own it. And he's like, okay, face your fear. Next. It's just like, wait, what?
Was that the end of this one?
Nope.
There's more stuff in this movie.
There's more stuff, man. Because you got to have the final fight between Shang Tsung and Liu Kang, where he changes into his brother at one point. I like how Liu Kang is kind of confused when Shang Tsung changes into his brother. And I'm like, wait, you just saw this dude transform into your dead brother. But he's like, wait, is it you, Chang? No, it can't be. It's like, wait, you just saw him do this, and you know he's a shapeshifter. Why are you confused? Liu Kang finally steps up and he says, no, every man is responsible for his own destiny. Shang Tsung turns back and says, you're mine. It's so over the top and ridiculous. Man, I love it.
I'm glad that you got so much joy out of this. This was actually a request, too. Someone requested we cover these. And I'm glad that it had this positive outcome. It sounds like you had a blast watching this again.
I really did. Well, mainly this first one. We'll get into there's other ones I enjoyed too, but I also wanted to bring up the fact that they mention a lot of the terms from the game, like fatality and flawless victory. But did you notice that every time they use flawless victory, every time someone said that, it was incorrect?
Yeah, it pissed me off so bad. It reminded me of the whole thing where it's like, they didn't even play this game. They don't know what a flawless victory means.
Right. I was like, wait, have you guys played this game? Because Shang Tsung beats the crap out of Liu Kang, and then he has the classic action trope of all of a sudden like rising from the dead almost, and then just coming back as like this invincible force to take down Shang Tsung, and finally throws him on the spikes on the ground that Shang Tsung raised earlier.
Can I just tell you, too, I don't think that they even had a grip on the English language, because if you've never played a Mortal Kombat game, you know that flawless means perfect. So that was obviously not a flawless win. So not only have they not played Mortal Kombat, they don't know English, but they must know English because they wrote all this other dialogue about prophylactics that I've been listening to.
I think the executives were just like, yeah, you got to get in more references to the game. It's like, but wait, that wasn't a flawless victory. No, do it. It was like, wait, that makes no sense.
I was bummed that there wasn't a babality in this either. Where were the babalities?
Babality? What was the babalities again? When they turn
There's
you
a
into
thing
a
where
baby?
you could turn your opponent into a babality.
And it's like a little
Wait,
baby,
you could turn them
right?
into a baby, not a babality. A babality as an existent thing. No, not that. No, you just turn your foe into a baby. That is a babality.
Yes.
And then you had friendship where you make buddies with them and you don't rip their spine out. And then, of course, you have the fatalities, which they couldn't do in this movie, even though they're the biggest hook of the video games because they couldn't get that sweet PG-13 cash.
I'm surprised they didn't use Bridget Wilson Sampras as a babality, where like Johnny Cage is like, babality or something stupid like that.
That sounds hot. And she's like, okay, we'll see how hot you think it is. And then she just turns him into a baby that's helpless and leaves him in Outworld for him to be devoured by Goro. That would have been pretty funny.
That would have been great.
I mean, if you're into babies getting eaten and dead baby jokes. But for everyone else, I'd say 99.5% of the population that's not as into those jokes as I am, you would think it was horribly offensive. Even more offensive than the Mortal Kombat games. Tipper Gore would have lost it if this movie had a babality, and then that happened to the baby. On top of all the stuff she was already losing it about in the 90s, like, you know, song lyrics and things like that. Man, the Mortal Kombat movie that could have been. I'm going to make another cut of this. I feel like I have this entire other movie in my head that I keep talking about that doesn't exist and really should have existed, and I'm going to make it happen somehow.
What did you think of the very end when they win and everything?
More stuff happens in this movie? Are you kidding me? How long have we been talking about the first Mortal Kombat movie? We're not going to talk about the other two as much as this one, right?
No, we're not. I'm sorry.
I am going to run out of candy. What happens at the end? I don't remember.
I have so much history. I have so much history with this movie, and I just watched it today, so I'm just glowing with detail. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know. We don't have to talk about the end if you don't want to, but it ties into Annihilation.
Go ahead. What happens? Oh, yeah, the sky opens up. I remember it more from Real Talk talking about it on their podcast than I do from watching it in the actual movie.
Oh, wow.
Because it happens so fast. It's like, yes, now we'll have peace. Wait, never mind. Psych.
Right. Yeah, they win the tournament. They apparently are supposed to seal Outworld from taking over Earth. And there's this big party at the end where Raiden gets his last rasp where he's like, you guys did great. And then the sky grows dark and giant Shere Khan. Wait, is it Shere Khan? Is that the tiger from Jungle Book?
Shere Khan is from the Jungle Book. And then Mowgli fights him.
What's this character's name? I'm trying to remember. What's the emperor's name? Is it
Boba Fett?
It's Khan something.
Thanos.
Or something Khan.
Shang Tsung.
No, not Shang Tsung. The emperor dude. Shao Kahn.
Are you kidding? That's so close to Shere Khan.
I know, it's so close. So the giant Shere Khan appears and he says, you weak, pathetic fools, I've come for your souls. And you've got Raiden's last line of the movie, I don't think so, in the lightning eyes. And they all take the fighting pose, and the theme music drops, and you roll credits. And that's exactly how Annihilation opens up. It's like 2 seconds after that.
It really does pick up right where the last movie ended. Like exactly where it ended. It's like a Back to the Future type situation if the Back to the Future movie sucked. Dude, Annihilation, really, really a bad movie. Man. To me, so bad that I really enjoyed the hell out of it. And I'm not kidding. I enjoyed it more than the first Mortal Kombat movie because I thought that was so bad it's good. But this is so bad it's so good. But I don't think you felt the same way. I think it was so bad it made you sad. Just to get a little more 90s on it. And when I say bad, I mean literally bad. And when I say sad, I also mean literally sad.
We have to decipher that language since so many of us come from the 90s listening to this show, I'm sure. I think this went to multiple levels for me where I was like, as soon as this started, I was like, oh no, this looks so bad. This looks really bad. And I think it might be possibly the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm not going to lie. I think it's that bad. I think it might be the worst thing I've ever watched. It went from so bad that this is good, that this is funny, to about midway through, I was just like, oh man, how am I going to finish this? This is just really awful. How can something be this bad? But then after a while, I got back in the groove and I was like, okay, this is hilarious. So it took me on a journey.
Oh, that's good. And really the best thing about both of these movies is when you're watching it and you're like, how the hell does this have 20 minutes left? It really doesn't. For some reason, both of these movies have 10-minute long credits at the end. It's insane. Jurassic Park doesn't have this long of credits. And I know more people worked on Jurassic Park than this, but they're like 4 minutes long in Jurassic Park and they're 10 minutes long for both of these.
I think the overall effect of Annihilation for me, I texted you, I was like, man, I just got annihilated. I feel like this movie just annihilated my soul, and it was like Shang Tsung sucking the soul out of my body, but in a funny way somehow, because this has some of the worst line readings in a movie. And I want to mention the one, I think the most famous one, where Katana sees her mother that she thought was dead is on the bad guy's side now, and she says,
Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
I mean, that's like the best part of the movie in the first 5 minutes. But then I'm like, man, there's a whole movie of this kind of stuff where I'm like, oh, I thought that was bad, but then it just keeps going. And I literally thought this looked like an episode of Power Rangers. Like, I'm pretty sure Power Rangers looks better, actually, but this was a $30 million movie. And that just blows my mind that somebody made this and then put it out with how terrible everything is. Like, how can you be bad at writing, acting, cinematography, lighting, fighting in a fighting movie, the score, like everything is just god awful to the point that it's hilarious, but it's also just, I guess, awe-inspiring in a way where I'm like, how did this get made and how did it get released? It's just kind of like they didn't give a shit.
That's what I've been trying to tell you, Jordan. That's what I've been trying to tell you this whole time. They don't care about the people who enjoy these games or the people that enjoy the realms of Mortal Kombat or Super Mario Brothers or Tomb Raider or Alone in the Dark or Doom. They're like, well, video games are just mind-numbing trash. So the people who play that don't care about what we show them. They'll just go see any crap that we have. But I don't want to complain about that anymore. What I really want to talk about is Musetta Vander, who plays Sindel in this movie, who is, of course, the mom.
The lady who screams and breaks things with her voice, who plays Katana's mom?
Yeah, Katana's mom, dude. Musetta Vander. You know who else she played in the 90s? I thought, man, I'm weirdly into Sindel. I'm weirdly into this Musetta Vander. And then I realized, how could I not be into her? She played Munitia in Wild Wild West.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Munitia. You're so mighty. I don't know. I should have wrote some lines for Kenneth Branagh's character so I can do my favorite imitation on the show. But I didn't realize that until right now because I'm looking at her little cast page and she's in some stuff, man. She was also in a movie a few years before that called Dickwad.
Called Dickwad?
Yeah, that's right. And dude, She was in a Mortal Kombat movie just 3 years later. How much of an amazing career is that? And then she was Munitia in Wild Wild West. And Jordan, do you know why else? I was like, why am I strangely attracted to this evil character? You know why? Because she's also one of the sirens in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Whoa.
Oh, wow. Also because she's wearing that sweet purple spandex, right? I mean, that's really what got you going, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's got to be it. And then, you know what else she was in? She was in Mansquito, Jordan. Mansquito. We love Mosquito here. She was in Mansquito.
Have you seen Mansquito?
Oh, I have not. I wish it was a 90s movie. I might punish you with that one day anyway.
Ooh.
Oh. Yeah, really, Musetta Vander is the only thing I feel like talking about in this movie. That's going to be my prophylactics for this one.
You didn't want to talk about the scene with Nightwolf and the trippy dream sequence that Liu Kang goes through?
That was so dumb. That was so bad. That's all I have to say.
I feel like that's all I have to say about this movie in the long run. I'm like, that was so dumb.
We're going to talk about the first 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, which is objectively bad, but also objectively better than this one, for a full hour. And we're going to give Mortal Kombat Annihilation 5 minutes of our time.
Pretty much. What about, I mean, there's so many parts that just what are they doing? This is so bad. But when, was it Liu Kang? He's trying to save Katana from a steel cage, and then he has to fight the character Baraka, who just shows up in a rubber Halloween mask. I'm like, this is a $30 million movie, and this guy's wearing a rubber Halloween mask. That's pretty much where did the money go on this movie? I feel like they're just yeah, let's just all go get drunk every day and trip out in the desert. Oh, we've got a movie to make. Oh, that's right. Throw on that rubber mask real quick.
And the director was John R. Leonetti.
He was the DP from the first movie. Yeah. Despite all the money they had on this and the animatronics that they were using in the first one, and yeah, some questionable CG, I feel like 90% of this movie is just made out of bad CG. It's god awful terrible. It's a CD-ROM from hell.
There's a CGI monster fight at the end of this. That's amazing.
It's amazing, again, that they made this and then released it into theaters. I was thinking, oh, was this just a straight-to-video sequel? No, they released this movie into theaters. I was watching, I think it was the "No, You Will Die" clip from Katana's mother on YouTube. And the guy who had uploaded it was like, yeah, I saw this in the theater. I paid money to see this movie in the theater. I'm like, that is a rip, man. There's a moment where Scorpion reappears in this, and they explain at one point that there's a Sub-Zero character again, even though they both those characters died in the first movie. Sub-Zero is apparently the younger brother of the first Sub-Zero. They don't even try to explain Scorpion reappearing. They just needed Sub-Zero and Scorpion to fight for this. But there's a moment where Scorpion yells, "Suckers!" and he, I think that's when he takes Katana and they disappear. Well, I almost felt like that was a nod to the audience as well, for those in 97 who paid to see this movie. You suckers, you paid for this. What a chump.
I know that the guys that created the video games, Ed Boon and John Tobias, said that this was kind of like the nadir of all Mortal Kombat. They felt like this was the worst adaptation of their creation. And I haven't seen all the stuff related to Mortal Kombat. Obviously, this is the first time I watched any of these movies. But if there's something worse than this, I actually want to watch it. I would like to see that, I think.
I know Robin Shaw and Paul W.S. Anderson also derided this movie as well. So it doesn't seem like anybody involved is really proud of this.
What an asshole. When Paul W.S. Anderson is like, "Oh, your movie sucks." Come on, dude. You're the biggest hack of the 21st and 20th century. You made Alien versus Predator, dude. Settle down. Settle down. Go somewhere else. You and Mille go hit the Alps or whatever it is you do when you're not making a Resident Evil movie.
This movie might be the reason why we have so many Resident Evil sequels, actually, is because after this came out, Paul W.S. Anderson, feeling kind of dismayed that he left the franchise and didn't stay with it, is the reason why he would go on to make Resident Evil and then feel like he would need to be the one to make all those sequels as well. So in a way, I'm kind of disappointed because, like you said, I'm not going to ever bother to watch any of the Resident Evil sequels. But even though I don't think he's a great director, I know, he has his defenders and his fans. I think I would have enjoyed to see more variety in his career, to see what other stuff he could have done other than a million Resident Evil movies. But I think Annihilation is to blame for that. So just one more thing to throw at this terrible movie.
So really, you're saying that you wish you could have seen more from Paul W.S. Anderson?
More than just Resident Evil sequels. I mean, maybe there would have been something schlocky and trashy and fun that I would have actually watched.
Didn't he do like that Death Race movie? Didn't he do like Death Race, which was a remake of Death Race 2000?
Yeah, I never saw it. I like how we haven't even talked about the plot of this movie.
What is the plot? I don't even remember. It's just cracking me up how I have the plot written out in front of me, and I can't remember it. Like I'm trying to use it as reference, and I can't remember any of this.
It's not worth talking about. I mean, again, comparing the original to this movie, I feel like as dumb as the first movie it is, I will always remember it. It'll always stick with me. It has actual memorable moments, but the most that I can remember from this movie is the terrible rubber Baraka mask, the terrible CGI, and the terrible line readings. And that's about it. I don't remember anything else about this movie.
Well, screw you, Jordan, because Munitia from Wild Wild West is in this, and that's all I need. It's better.
That's all you need. What did you think of when, I do remember this, the character Jade, who becomes an ally to Liu Kang? You know, we know something's up with her from the beginning because she appears after his trippy drink and just takes off her most of her clothes and just cuddles up to Liu Kang as trying to seduce him. And then he rejects her because, you know, he's got a woman already. He's got Katana, who he's moving ever so closer to the romantic life with the 10,000-year-old princess. But we'll forget all about that for this movie. Anyways, Jade tricks Liu Kang and them into thinking the team has beaten Katana's mom because she becomes like one of the sub-bosses that they have to fight. But it's only for the mom to wake up and do the evil laugh and say, ha ha ha, you've been tricked. And then she flies away, and then Jade like runs away. And that's like one element of the plot of this movie that about sums it up, because it makes no sense. And it's just like, wait, why did you pretend to be beaten only to wake up and then run away after saying you tricked them? Like, what is this, kindergarten? Like, I don't understand what is happening.
So Jordan, Musetta Vander, she was also in Highlander where she played Ingrid. Dude, she was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer where she played the She-Mantis. And my favorite, and I remember this now that I'm looking at it, she played Shinnok in Stargate SG-1 in multiple episodes.
So you just want to talk about those movies instead?
Those are all television shows, my friend.
I'm sorry.
I know that you have TV on the mind, since this movie plays like a TV movie of the week as far as the budget goes, with its $30 million looking like $30,000. But yeah, I think I don't want to talk about it anymore. Can we talk about 2021's Mortal Kombat now?
No.
You actually have, there's some more plot to the first Mortal Kombat that you didn't get to yet. So now you want to talk about the rest of the Mortal Kombat 1 plot that you didn't
I need to talk more about the original Mortal Kombat. No. I did want to ask you, other than the CGI, what would you say is the worst part about Annihilation?
It's completely incomprehensible plot. That's what I would say would be the worst thing.
I would say the actor playing Shao Kahn is probably the worst part, because, okay, so in the first one, at the very end, you get the giant Shao Kahn appearing in the sky, and he's got this deep, epic voice. And this one, at first I was like, wait, that guy is like super skinny. I'm like, okay, he's not skinny. He actually has some muscle on him, but it looks like the costume they gave him doesn't fit. He's again wearing like a rubber skull mask, and everything he says is so over the top. It's not even bad, it's good. It's just like, dude, did you not know you were in a terrible movie? Like,
let's get into TV again real quick here. So that's Brian Thompson. He was the alien bounty hunter on the X-Files. I recognized him immediately and got pumped. Even though his character sucks in this movie, he was awesome in the X-Files. He had a ton of menace, and then he was in a bunch of Star Trek. I think I remember him being in Deep Space Nine. I really need to rewatch that show. It was great. But I liked him on a lot of TV shows. And again, it's like you're watching a TV show. I don't want to say it's not as good as the first one. I don't know what to say there. Again, I have nothing else to say about Apocalypse. What else do you have to say about Apocalypse?
About Apocalypse.
Wait, Annihilation. Damn it. I knew I was going to do that at some point.
His acting is definitely like Z-level TV of the week. not even TV movie of the week. Like I said, it feels like most of these actors should be on like a bad episode of Power Rangers.
Jordan, you don't deserve Musetta or Brian. You don't deserve them at all.
Not that I know there's a good episode of Power Rangers out there, but yeah, it's Z level, man. It's really terrible. You know, the acting is straight out of a bad TV show, and the CG is straight out of, you know, it looks worse than the video game these movies were based on.
Man, not that those games look bad for their time, but that's a pretty low blow. And I have to agree with you. Whenever we were talking about CD-ROM quality, and a lot of times, like, our go-to phrase is, man, the CGI in this movie look like PlayStation 1 graphics. This one actually does look like PlayStation 1 graphics. And not even PlayStation 2.
I don't know if it's even that good, man. But anyway, we can only talk about the CGI, the bad CGI, for so long. So let's move on to Mortal Kombat 2021.
Jordan, I'm glad that you moved on, because while you were talking now, I was getting so bored with not Apocalypse, Annihilation, that I'm looking at on-set photos from Wild Wild West of Musetta Vander in costume as Munitia with Kenneth Branagh. So I would like to stop looking at those. Let's talk about this 2021 one.
Do I need to give you a moment alone?
So I just want to say this up front about the 2021 film. I could have watched it on HBO Now, but I decided, you know what? My wife and I are vaccinated. It's playing at the theater. I want to support the movie theater. Let's go see it in the theater. And, you know, what better movie to take your 11-year-old to than Mortal Kombat? So he came along, and we watched this. Yeah, because the thing about my son is this. I don't think he's ever going to host a movie podcast, because it's not that he hates movies, but at some point when he was a kid, he was like, wait a minute, Daddy, the stuff that's happening in the movies isn't really happening. And I said, no, bud, it's like on a set, and they're making the illusion of these things happening. These are all actors and actresses who are pretending to be these parts, and a computer is making those explosions. And then he just said, all right. And then I feel like since then, every time we watch a movie, he's like, well, I mean, it's just fake. So like the gore in the movie, where it would shock a lot of adults, he's just like, it's not real.
I'm more concerned now, is he dropping F-bombs every other word? Because that's this movie, not, basically.
There was more language in this movie than I thought. It's really almost PG-13 language until Kano shows up, and then it's not anymore at all.
I don't know. It's more than Kano, though, because I feel like every character, other than, I guess, like none of the Asian characters are really cursing. Like Liu Kang doesn't curse, or Kung Lao, or any of them, because I guess it just doesn't fit their character. But every American in this movie, Sonya, Jax, Kano, well, not that he's American, but yeah, they're all just dropping the F-bomb every second, and I was not expecting that. I was like, whoa. And then, yeah, the gore was... They definitely went all out on the gore, making it as bloody as possible. I guess really probably to make up for these first two movies that were so mild, you know, compared to the game. Like, we got to live up to the game and be as buckets of blood as possible. But I thought it was cool. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say up front, since we just talked about the other two movies, I've looked at audience reaction after this, and I see a lot of people saying, like, you know, it wasn't as good as the original 95 film. That one actually had a tournament, and this one doesn't even have that. Okay, look, this isn't a great film by any means or measure. But if you can watch this and then say, objectively as a movie, this is not as good as the 1995 movie, I don't know what you're smoking, but I think that you need to lay off of the Outworld hash, because this is a decent movie. And I'm sorry, those 90s movies, they're lousy, man. They're so bad, they're good. That's the only reason to me that they're entertaining. And this is a decent flick. It's not great, but it's a fun watch, and there are elements that are bad, but it's fun to watch because it's decent, at least to me. Not so bad, it's good.
I would agree. I feel like maybe some people have their nostalgia glasses still on, you know, that's making that 95 movie look better than it is, because after watching all these, I would definitely say this is the more competently made movie. It is decent and it's enjoyable and fun. There were some stupid parts in it that I laughed at and that I had questions about, you know, like the tournament, you know, because by the end of the movie I was like, wait, did they ever go to a tournament? Did they ever do the tournament? It was basically just Shang Tsung and his crew trying to kill everybody before they did a tournament.
And that's a thing now in the 21st century, because in every James Bond movie, I feel like in the 21st century, he goes rogue in the first 20 minutes of the movie, and he's never like on an actual spy mission that he's being sent on. It's like, oh no, I gotta go rogue on this one before I can even get my mission. And that's really what the bad guys do in this movie. They just follow that blueprint.
Yeah, I guess they're following the Bond. But I thought it had a really cool opening. I liked the opening scene with Sub-Zero attacking the wife and son. I thought the CG looked good there, and it continued to look good throughout the film. I thought it was funny. Hanzo, the character who becomes, well, obviously we should say spoilers for this whole movie, and this is a brand new movie, so we should just temper people's expectations for the rest of the show. It's going to be filled with spoilers for this movie, but Hanzo, who ends up becoming Scorpion later in the film, he's filling up buckets of water in the very beginning, and he hears his wife scream, and when he leaves the buckets to run, I was like, but dude, didn't you watch the first movie? You're going to need that bucket of water to defeat Sub-Zero. It's the element of life.
Deep, dude.
Maybe a callback? I don't know. What were they thinking? Buckets, from the first movie? I don't know.
Maybe they were, because this is definitely the best scene in the entire movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and it feels almost like a different movie in a way. Obviously, because they're speaking in Japanese and it's, like feudal Japan. But I thought they captured all that really well. I dug it, especially being Japanese and, having the sword fight and him fighting all the guys with the little, I guess, knife or spear that his wife was using as a garden tool. He ends up tying that to the rope, and that's really what becomes the scorpion spear chain thing that he uses later. And I thought that was a cool touch. So yeah, I dug this whole opening scene. He takes out all these putties. Again, just calling it back to Power Rangers. He takes out the putties, these little goons that attack him before he gets into the Sub-Zero fight. I thought the CGI blood was a little distracting. There's a lot of CGI blood, a lot of CGI gore.
They used a lot of not real blood, obviously, but they actually used a lot of prop blood in this movie. I know they did use CGI blood too, but yeah, I was looking at the making of stuff, dude. They got bloody on this set. There's a big fatality scene a little bit past the middle of the movie where someone gets sawed in half and blood goes everywhere. That was almost entirely set blood, not CGI.
That did look pretty wicked. I guess I mostly noticed it in this first scene where we're in the feudal Japan setting, the CGI blood, but I guess you're right. Later, I didn't notice it as much.
It does feel like they shot this completely separate. It just, again, not that the movie is a bad movie, but it's so much higher quality than the rest of the film. You really do feel like you're almost watching like a classic Asian action film.
Right. Well, what did you think about Sub-Zero? He starts speaking in Chinese in this opening scene about how, he wiped out Hanzo's clan. And Hanzo's basically just like, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm going to kill you. I'm like, wait, why is he speaking in Chinese then? And we know that he can speak Japanese because we saw him speak Japanese earlier. So that didn't really make any sense to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jordan. I didn't even notice that or care about it. So I thought that whole scene was badass.
Oh, man. But they really do commit to the EDM score in this because, they have that classic bump, bump, bump music going. It's a little different in this, but even when the action stops and they're just, pausing for breath or whatever, you get the da-da, da-da, like they're dropping the bass in like every moment of silence.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a little overdone, but
maybe I was just excited to be back in the movie theater with my family for the first time in a long time, so the movie could do no wrong.
I'm jealous. Yeah, I'm guessing this did have like the first movie back in the theater boost for you.
Yeah, I'll say this one negative, and there are multiple negatives, not just this one. This is probably the worst Sonya Blade of any of the movies. Even I'd say Annihilation, because I don't think Jessica McNamee is a terrible actress, but for some reason she's just off this entire movie. Like every line reading, I don't know. There's just something that doesn't work there. Literally, like every time she's on screen, I can't quite put my finger on it.
I didn't have a problem with her. especially after watching Annihilation. How can you say she's the worst Sonya, man? Yeah, whoever played Sonya in Annihilation basically just became like a mud wrestling babe, because that's most of what she does in that movie is wear a see-through tank top and booty shorts and mud wrestles with other kung fu ladies. I don't know. She was just very distractingly shot with like lots of objectification. So I don't think she really had much going on for her character.
Okay, first of all, like I told you, her outfit is very obviously from Sears. And second of all, it made me want to shop at Sears. And our local Sears just shut down too, which pisses me off. So you know what? No, I'll defend her. She was like a walking Sears catalog with her white T-shirt and khaki shorts, and it was great. So you're wrong.
Did you notice
Jordan.
how she mud wrestled and then she went and found like a river to clean herself off in, and then she comes back with like perfectly white shirt and pants again?
Yeah, she's got skills.
Got them laundry skills. Yeah, just stereotyping and objectification. But anyway, I didn't have a problem with Sonya in the new one. I thought she did fine.
Okay.
But, you know, we've got a new Raiden. What did you think about Raiden? Did you miss Chris Lambert?
I did not. This Raiden was what I would expect from Raiden after playing the video games. Tadanobu Asano as Lord Raiden, I thought he did a fine job. I really enjoyed a lot of the actors in this. Man, Sub-Zero, who is such a, no pun intended, such a force of nature in this film. Really just terrifying every time he's on screen and such a menace. He was played by Joe Taslim. I thought he did great. So great casting there.
Yeah, I thought he did great as well.
Yeah, he was awesome. And I've heard some negative things about the rest of the cast, his performance, but I don't know. I thought pretty much everyone was fine, except I didn't really dig the Sonya Blade character in this one. But I thought everybody else was okay.
I guess we should introduce the plot and the synopsis for people that haven't seen the movie, now that we've been talking about it for 10 minutes.
Didn't you do that already when you said there's not even going to be a tournament? They're going to get hunted down instead before it can even happen? Like, is there really more plot than that?
I guess not, but one of the new characters, Cole Young, he's kind of a out of his prime mixed martial arts fighter, kind of the main protagonist of this movie. He's not a character original to the games. They made him for this movie. And so his whole thing is protecting his family, of course, and then he gets pulled into this tournament, this kind of secret idea of this Hanzo line that he belongs to. He's the descendant of the character that we meet in the beginning of the movie in feudal Japan. And he's got this mark on him that's the Mortal Kombat logo, of course, and all the fighters have these dragon marks on them. And hey, why not get a tattoo from your favorite video game? I don't know. Seems like the cool thing to do.
And that means you're chosen, and eventually you can get an Arcana, which is a special power, which I don't remember from the video games. I think that's just made for this movie, just like the Cold character, who unfortunately doesn't really get the coolest ability. He just kind of gets like a metal exoskeleton with knife blades, which actually I guess that is cool, but it's not as cool as being able to shoot ice out of your hands, you know?
Yeah, the whole time I was expecting him to turn into Scorpion, because he had that lineage and he had the blade of the spear. And he had the yellow exoskeleton. I was like, oh, well, he's got these, this knife and this club. Eventually, I guess he'll get the spear coming out of hand on chain power, or whatever that's called. But no, it turned out to be Hanzo coming back from the dead out of hell to fight Sub-Zero, which was kind of a cool twist, but it did leave me a little disappointed for Cole's character, where, like you said, he didn't really have the coolest power. And that was kind of the draw for this whole movie for me. It was just like, oh, what different powers are we going to see? Those are pretty cool. And using the powers for really epic, over-the-top, gory moments, badass fights. So for him to be the main character to have just kind of like a lackluster power was, a little disappointing. But overall, yeah, I thought the fights were really creative. I thought they were, again, just a lot of fun and engaging, very memorable. And obviously just went all out with the blood and the gore, and kind of a sucker for that. So I did enjoy a lot of that.
Look at you, a gore hound now.
What did you think was the best fight or the best gory moment? What stood out to you?
Well, first of all, I agree with you with wanting or thinking he was going to be Scorpion. And I kept thinking there's a big fight he has with Goro, which it's not badly done for someone fighting an entirely CGI character, but not my favorite fight because he is fighting an entirely CGI character. But he keeps getting thrown out of the frame by Goro because Goro's trying to kill his family. This is the movie I took my family to, by the way. And
right.
He keeps getting thrown to the side, and I kept thinking like, oh, he's going to do get over here and pull Goro away from his family and to him. That seemed like the perfect setup for it. I don't know if the filmmakers didn't think like, man, we are really setting up a little grappling hook to come out of his hand right now. We're setting that up perfectly and we're not doing it. I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it just did not come to them. Yeah, I would have dug that. But my favorite fight, I mean, that opening scene is the best scene for sure. But I also dug, since we're doing full spoilers, I dug the team-up fight where it was also extremely badass whenever Scorpion comes out from hell and says that that's where he's been, that he got sent to hell by Sub-Zero. And right as he was dying, he said, remember this face, and his face comes right on back. And man, Hiroyuki Sanada, I thought he did phenomenal. Really, the coolest characters. They were the coolest in the game, in my opinion, too. But the coolest characters and the best actors in this movie, it's all about Sub-Zero and Scorpion. And their fight at the end of the movie in the warehouse where they're just beating the crap out of each other and using all their video game powers. I thought it was awesome. And then Cole comes in, and it's a fight between three people because they've got to team up on Sub-Zero because he's just such a badass in this movie. I enjoyed that probably the most. I think that was my favorite fight. How about you?
I agree. I think that is a really awesome moment. I enjoyed that fight, and yes, seeing them use some of the powers, like when Sub-Zero, he makes the ice sculpture of himself for Scorpion to attack. Then you have Scorpion, of course, getting in the flamethrower, breathing fire out of a skull face on Sub-Zero at the very end. I was like, okay, you gotta have that. You gotta have that. So I was glad they brought that back for this one. You mentioned the other scene where we've got Kung Lao, who has a frisbee hat with a blade on it, and there's a moment where he's fighting, I guess, like a winged girl. I forgot who she was, but she's like a bat girl kind of thing.
I'm glad you forgot her name because I'm going to get into that in a few minutes. But yeah, continue.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah, she gets sliced in half by the frisbee hat, and like you said, it was really bloody and gory, but I thought that was a pretty gnarly moment. I enjoyed that a lot. I was really surprised when Jax was fighting one of the bad evil characters, and he uses the power to smash his head and just splatters the guy's head. That was pretty intense. And
yeah, that was fun. I
guess, as fun as splattering someone's head can be. I thought, just going away from the fights a little bit and talking about other stuff I enjoyed, I really thought Kano was a really fun character in this, and he got a lot more screen time than he did in the first movie. He kind of replaces Johnny Cage and becomes that smart alecky side character adjacent to the protagonist, and of course he's kind of ribbing Sonya and going back and forth with her the whole movie like he does in the first one, but he's a little bit more of a ally, at least for the first part of the movie. And he's got so many like funny lines in this where he's talking to Kung Lao and he calls him a wushu wannabe who wears a hubcap for a hat. And I just thought that was great. He's got so many little insults like that throughout the movie that were pretty well done.
Yeah, I enjoyed him as kind of a foil there. And man, a lot of people get killed in this one, I'm assuming, since they are going to make a sequel. And they even tease Johnny Cage at the very end of the movie since he's not in this one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They do have the kind of caveat at the end where the villains, it appears they're going to be able to be resurrected. I don't know about the good guys, too. But they do kill off so many folks in this flick. I know that the stable of Mortal Kombat characters is huge, so they can just bring out more. But I'm hoping some of the ones that died in this one will come back if they make a sequel, which, even if it's only up to this quality and not better, I'd still watch, probably.
You know who I hope they don't bring back if they do make a sequel?
Sonya.
Well, not Sonya, but the guy who played Shang Tsung in this movie is just the worst. he had the most just punchable face and attitude throughout this whole thing. I thought he was just a terrible actor, and I don't know, he just looked so goofy and out of place. Probably the main aspect of the movie that I did not get into at all. I just thought he was really miscast, and I was definitely missing Cary Tagawa in that role. I don't think he dies in this, though. He just gets like sent away by Raiden, so he could definitely come back if there's a sequel.
Yeah, and as we know from the way that the first film ends, the rules are meaningless here. So it doesn't really matter if they won, if they're all still alive at the end, and the tournament didn't even happen. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
There is no tournament, so maybe the next movie they'll actually have a tournament. I don't know.
So any final thoughts on this one?
I thought it was interesting with Liu Kang, appearing in this movie, but kind of being more of a side character. But he does get some cool moments where he uses the giant dragon animality thing, and the CG here doesn't look like total dog shit, so that was cool. He has the bicycle kick, of course, and like has flame powers and stuff. For a smaller budget, I thought all the effects in this were really well done. I was surprised, and just overall I was surprised that this was better than I expected.
Yeah, because it was only like a $50 million budget, which I think adjusted for inflation is less than Annihilation's budget.
Just
Isn't that
blows
crazy?
my mind, man. I know that movie cost the most money out of all these three, but is utterly terrible and looks like garbage. So I don't know how that's possible. Again, I think they were just blowing all that money on coke, maybe.
Maybe so, or maybe peyote from the desert scenes they filmed in that one.
That's right. With Nightwolf, he was their drug dealer, I guess. They had to pay him off.
Well, Jordan, now that we're at the end of our Mortal Kombat journey, I'd like to challenge you to a duel.
That's right. This wouldn't be Mortal Kombat without a fight.
Too bad you will die.
Yeah, so we both have a game that we've come up for the other to play and not even hinted to the other what that game is. I'd like to tell you what mine is first, Jordan, just because I'm being real uppity this episode.
All right, go ahead.
It's called, Is This a Real Mortal Kombat Character? So, Jordan, I'm going to give you the names of some characters and bios, and you're going to tell me whether or not they're a real character or a fake one.
Nice.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's test my might.
All right, Jordan, here we go. Is this a real Mortal Kombat character? Number 1. Opius, a cerulean cloak character who allows you to take control over the mind of your opponent, and whose fatality is a lobotomy performed solely with his knife-tipped fingertips.
I'm going to say that's a real character.
Wrong, Jordan. I made that up.
You made that?
I deceived
That's
you.
pretty good. It's pretty good.
There's no such thing as Opius.
You should pitch that.
All right, here's the second one. Noob Saibot. Noob Saibot is the undead wraith of a fallen warrior, whose fatality involves he and a shadow clone of himself ripping their defeated opponent in half from the crotch upward by pulling their legs apart, aka making a wish on a human wishbone.
That's got to be real.
Oh, that is real, Jordan. Noob Saibot is totally real.
Yeah, I remember seeing that name when I was reading up about the movie, but I didn't know the crotch ripping, so that's good to know.
Now you know, make a wish. You got one right.
How many do I need to get right to get through this alive?
There's 9. You must get 5 correct.
Okay.
I made it 9, an odd number, so that you could actually not tie with yourself, since you are really only competing against you. That's true. The true Mortal Kombat was you all along.
Face yourself.
You got it. Man, I feel like we just tore these movies open philosophically. That was incredible. All right. Cyber Scorpion, a robotic and fully evil version of Scorpion, whose fatality involves his spear launching from his robot hand and pulling the defeated opponent's skeleton out of their body, leaving their skin to slowly deflate like a sad bouncy house.
Sad bouncy. That's gotta be fake. You made that up.
Okay, it is fake, but I wrote all these bios. Like, I used their actual bios and paraphrased them in my own words.
Right. So you wrote that, but it is a real bio because you wrote it. So are you claiming it's real because you wrote it now? Is this like a trick question?
No, Cyber Scorpion is fake. I just want you to know, if these sound outlandishly written, it's because I wrote all of these in my own language.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan, I didn't just copy these off of Wikipedia. All right. Omega, a hell demon with red glowing eyes who wishes to destroy Outworld, and whose fatality involves ripping off a defeated foe's head, then flipping the body over and drinking out their blood and organs from their neck like a human tankard.
That's gotta be real, right?
No, man, I made that up. There's no such thing as a mega.
Oh, come on.
I got
That was an X-Man. I'm pretty sure that was an X-Man.
It's not Mortal Kombat, dude.
Omega Red. You're just ripping off other IP.
All right, number 5. You've gotten 2 right so far. Kira, a woman who disguises herself as a man and sells weapons to terrorist organizations in the mountains of Afghanistan, but during one such transaction in a cave, has her cover blown and then has no choice but to fight her way out. Her fatality involves pinning down her still standing defeated opponent by shoving knives through both their feet, then ripping off the upper half of their torso.
That sounds so generic that it could be real. Let's go with real.
All right, first off, you thought that sounded generic, that she's a woman who disguises herself as a man and sells weapons to terrorist organizations
I don't know.
in the mountains of Afghanistan?
But it also just doesn't sound like it fits the Mortal Kombat games, so now I'm questioning my choice. But I'm going to stick with real.
Wise decision, my friend, because she is real. Kira is a character from Mortal Kombat.
All right.
You've gotten 3 of these correct. You could possibly win. All right, here we go. The next character, Clara, a German milkmaid who steps into a Nazi-created portal to Outworld in World War II, and whose fatality involves squeezing a defeated opponent's head between her massive cleavage, then violently licking off their scalp, exposing their brains as she relaxes her bosom and their lifeless body drops to the floor.
That sounds like something you made up, but at the same time, I could see as much cleavage we get in these games, I could see the creators going with such a fatality. So, all right, I'm gonna guess for real.
It's fake, Jordan. There's no such thing as Clara.
Oh no!
Fooled you, you dummy.
You fooled me with the cleavage.
That's right.
You
There is
pulled
no
me in.
German milkmaid.
Oh, again,
She's
you
fake.
should pitch all these. These are great.
I really should. I'm calling Ed Boon as soon as we're done with this.
Do it.
All right, Jordan, you've got 3 right, and there are 3 more questions. You've got to get 2 of these right.
Okay.
All right, 3 more characters. Here we go. Triborg, a combination of Sector, Cyrax, and Smoke, as well as a cybernetic version of Sub-Zero, whose fatality involves morphing into a torture device, which includes a buzzsaw which first partially cuts a defeated opponent in half before the floor and ceiling come together to crush them in between.
That's got to be real.
You were correct, Jordan. Triborg is real. That's 4 right.
Just need one more.
All right, the next one. Ginny Cage. That's Johnny Cage's younger sister, who is also an actor, secretly skilled in the martial arts. Her fatality involves yelling action while pulling out a bladed director's clapperboard, then chopping off her opponent's hands and feet with it, then yelling cut as she takes out an Oscar-shaped trophy and repeatedly bludgeons her opponent's head until their skull has been flattened and their brains and eyeballs have sprayed all over the arena floor.
Are you not going to give me a simile at the end there? Sprayed all over the arena floor like the applause of the Academy? I don't know. That's got to be fake.
Jordan, you did it!
I win. I'm
You win.
victorious. Friendship.
You won the game, Jordan. You know your Mortal Kombat characters, or at least you can spot the stupid made-up crap that I'm trying to push on you. I didn't even get to tell you about Simbot Trico, which was going to be the last question, or the last character, who's a mutilated and sadistic former monk who once worshipped Shao Kahn, but now only wishes to destroy him. His fatality involves immolating his defeated opponent to the point of death, then urinating with blurred genitals on their still smoking remains.
Is that real or fake?
That's fake. There's no Simbot
Yeah,
Trico.
there's no way
it.
that's real.
I'm calling Ed Boon right now. Dude, Simbot Trico. He's got to be in Mortal Kombat 73. You got to put him in there.
Mortal Kombat 73.
What if our listeners just turned it off because they were so pissed that I didn't say Mortal Kombat X2 or whichever one they're on?
No, I love that you said 73 because it is true. They have like a ridiculous amount of these games. And I think I've only played the first 3. But anyway, all right, so I am victorious to your challenge. Now I challenge you, Nick Loop, to my death match. Let's see if you can make it through
I'm definitely
this.
going to lose this. I can already see the future here.
All right, so this is not going to be as long or as extensive. I did not put as much work into this as you did, obviously. So, again, showing how much you dedicate yourself to the show, and I'm just trying to get by. But
I think it's clear to the listeners that I couldn't recite even one plot point from any of these films. It's very, very important, the preparation that I do here.
you're dedicated. I don't question it. But are you dedicated enough to 1995's Mortal Kombat that you can tell me within 30 seconds as I play the Mortal Kombat theme music 6 of the actors' names from 95's Mortal Kombat? Test your might.
Bridget Wilson, Christopher Lambert, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie.
Wrong.
Sabu. Let's see who else was in it. I do believe George Clooney makes a cameo. Then you've got Ed Norton, who is in it for a few minutes. Then you've got Reese Witherspoon, who just makes the faces from Cruel Intentions, which was really the scariest moment in the movie.
That's 30
and then
seconds,
you've got
sir.
Orson Welles.
Fail.
Orson Welles.
Fatality. Flawless victory.
Did I get any of those right?
I think you got like 2 or 3 right.
I mean, Jordan, Orson Welles had to have been in this thing. I know he was dead at the time.
He was the
but still.
narrator, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, had to have been.
You lose. Sorry, bud.
Womp, womp, womp. I did not deserve to win.
Do you think I can name all 6?
Yeah, I know that you can.
Let me see, because if I challenge you to this fight, I need to prove myself worthy. All right, so we've got Robin Show, Bridget Wilson Sampras, Christopher Lambert, Lyndon Ashby, Kerry Tagawa, and the 6th one, those are like the only 5 notable people in the movie, but I think the 6th one could be Keith Cook, who I think plays, he's like one of the stuntmen. No, okay, Keith Cook played Reptile. That's right, Keith Cook. All 6, there you go.
You forgot about your mom, Jordan.
Your mom's in this. Because she sucks.
Hey, did you notice how I followed the logic of these movies and that I kept mentioning prophylactics throughout the entire first 45 minutes and then never brought it up again?
That's how these things roll. Good job. Good job doing that.
Thank you.
I appreciated your commitment to the craft.
I wrote that into the script. Into the script I wrote for this episode that I've obviously been following to a T.
Well, as lovely as this has been, going back to all these films, I think it's time to call it a night. So, star ratings for all 3 of these?
I thought really hard. I'll give I want to say 6.5 for the new one. Maybe 7.
Mm-hmm.
I could maybe round it up to a 7. For the first 2 from the 90s, I can't give a score. I kept coming up with scores and changing them. I know this is lame, but I can't score them. They're like so bad they're good in a way that defies any type of scoring system that I can come up with. Really, I give the first Mortal Kombat movie, I give the apple that Johnny Cage was obviously looking for in the forest before he fought Scorpion. I give it the Golden Apple Award. That's the score I give it. And then Annihilation, I give it I can't remember one single plot point about the entire movie, except Munitia is in it from Wild Wild West, out of 10.
That's quite an award there. I can understand that they're so bad it's good. It's kind of hard to rate those kind of movies sometimes. I'd say for the first one, not a good movie. Very hilariously bad at times, but enjoyable to me for nostalgia reasons, and just there's some funny stuff in there that is genuinely good, I feel like, and some fights that I enjoy watching. But I gave that a 2.5 out of 5, so just about average, but still lots of terrible, but all that other stuff kind of rounds it out for me just to make it average. Annihilation, I'm going to go hardcore, like 0 out of 10, because it's
Damn! Jordan Courtney called his Sub-Zero.
Cold as Sub-Zero, my friend. It's possibly the worst thing I've ever seen. Just so hilariously bad. I can't believe they released that movie. And for the new one, I'd say, like decent, definitely objectively better than the first movie. I gave it a 3 out of 5, and did enjoy it quite a bit. I'd watch it again in 10 years.
You win the inaugural Film Shake Prophylactic. Good job.
All right, I expect that in the mail any day now.
I'll send it to you. And speaking of any day now, if you're like, man, I wish they would just stick to 90s movies. Hey, Congo? That's a movie we covered that took place in the rainforest, but there wasn't a giant snake in it. There is a giant snake in the next movie we're covering. And that movie is Anaconda. And I said Congo by mistake earlier, so I tried to cover up for it. But it's not Congo. We did that already. It's Anaconda with J-Lo and Ice Cube. We got that coming down the pipe soon, along with your punishment movie, because you lost the trivia that episode. So you're watching snakes on a plane. So we're just hissing it up the next episode.
Hissing it up, the snake episode. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So hope you guys enjoyed this Mortal Kombat triple feature. Stick around for the Anaconda episode coming soon. And we'll catch you next time for more Film Shake.
Take it easy.